Fox is Michelle Hackman, a reporter for the Wall Street Journal. And Michelle, thanks for being with us. We wanted to follow up on a story that you had broken a couple of months ago regarding possible civil lawsuits being filed from families that were separated at the border during the Trump administration back in 2018, the height of the migrant crisis. Now you have some new reporting to suggest that the DOJ might not be moving forward with that. Can you offer some more thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's confirmed by me and a bunch of other outlets that today the Justice Department let the ACLU, who were sort of the lead negotiators for these separated families, know that instead of going for a universal settlement, which is what the original idea was, and I think you mentioned that one of the numbers that had been suggested at one point was $450,000, up to $450,000 a person in damages. And after we reported that figure and the fact of the settlement negotiations, we know that the Justice Department went to the ACLU lawyers and said, because of the pressure that we're getting, the public pressure, that number is going to have to go down. And today they let them know, we're not going to be able to do a settlement at all.
So is your reporting suggesting that they kind of did buckle to the public pressure and the backlash of when you first reported just the idea of this?
Yeah. So, I don't want to speculate about today's move because we haven't reached folks in the Justice Department to speak to that. But we do know that, DOJ told the ACLU lawyers after our story broke that the public that this had suddenly become public had changed the nature of what they were able to do. Initially, President Biden was caught off guard by the number. He denied it. He had to walk that back. And so they definitely felt like they needed to move the numbers down from where they were because of that public outcry.
But there is some type of avenue going forward on an individual case-by-case basis. Is that right?
That's right. So the DOJ, in a statement, didn't close the door to the idea that maybe they might try to settle some individual claims. I want to put this in perspective. I mean, it wasn't just out of the goodness of their hearts that they wanted to settle. It's because the work cut out for them is really, really intense. They have at least, 900 separate claims with it asking for an average of $3 million in damages. They have 15 or 16 different lawsuits that they're facing. And they had told lawyers, don't sue us. We are going to do a universal settlement. And so I think they're facing a lot more lawsuits, a lot more work, and potentially, in some cases, I think we could see even higher payouts than what the settlements would have landed at. The Justice Department had told these people, don't sue us because we'll include you in a universal settlement. And so now that settlement offer is off the table, I think that the Justice Department's going to see a lot more lawsuits.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. And so let's talk about the Biden administration's response, because, when this story had broke, they were really offering mixed signals and messages. Is it your view that they were caught off guard and they had to have some response? Because you heard from, the president, but also Jen Psaki at the White House press briefing initially say that, they were kind of on not the same page.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate on something that I don't know perfectly well, but from the indication we've been able to get, we don't know that President Biden had a specific idea of what was being negotiated, and maybe he was supportive of the general idea, but didn't know the numbers. That's certainly how it appeared to us, because he sort of initially fully denied our reporting and then had to walk that back the next day.
The Department of Justice, is this a priority for them at the moment, or is this kind of not going to be as in the headlines as it has been in the past since your first reporting?
It was a priority for them for sure. I can't say exactly where it's going to rank now that they are going to, the Justice Department is in this really uncomfortable spot where they're going to have to fight these lawsuits. And I don't know if that involves actually defending the family separations policy or negotiating down the award numbers, but it puts them in a really awkward position because it's the opposite of what they campaigned on.
Right, including, and while I have you, and that's another policy that the courts have ruled that has to be put in place yet again, and that's the Remain in Mexico policy. Can you just give us an update on that? I know you've been following that very closely, but the Biden administration really forced to go through with this policy.
Sure. So that's a separate issue. This is a program where asylum seekers are required to live in Mexico while their asylum claims are basically being considered. Um, it's a policy that Biden called dangerous and immoral on the campaign, and it's funny, we've gotten indications that people in the White House and the Department of Homeland Security, once they were dealing with this sort of historic surge at the border this summer, had sort of floated the idea of what if there's a way that we could bring back remain in Mexico, but make it kinder and gentler and not as dangerous for the migrants. That was what, one of the big criticisms of the program. And for them, they sort of almost got this reprieve because a month later, a court ruled that they had to do it. And so they've gone ahead.
All right. Well, we appreciate your reporting there, and we're going to be continuing to follow this as well. We're here, as you know, in Phoenix, Arizona, and there's been an influx of illegal crossings at the Yuma sector down on the border. So we appreciate all that immigration roundup there. Michelle Hackman, we'll talk to you again.
Fantastic. Thank you.